Jai Shri Krishna. Welcome to program number 25, our final program as we focus on Bhagavad Gita, chapters 1 to 18. As we come to this final program, I must firstly thank all our sponsors who have made this possible for us to bring this program to you week after week. And in addition to bringing it week after week, what we have managed to do here is create authentic local content on Bhagavad Gita, which will be available and be replayed on IETV. We want to begin at this stage by inviting our consultant of the International Gita Forum, Pandit Vickramaditya Maharaj. Panditji, we've completed in our last program the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Before we move on to the greatness of the Gita, Gita Mahatam, let us just look at, from your perspective, what really does the Gita teach? What does it tell us as human beings?
Very interesting. In that from research, we have found out that people have been studying the Gita for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years people have been studying the Gita, trying to unravel this mystery. What is so mysterious about this text? People have been analyzing the entire Gita verse by verse, hoping they could find in the Gita a revelation that could change the course of humanity. They keep looking for it. And this revelation comes. But it comes from a very unsuspecting source. Strange. And it comes in the very first verse of the Gita. The unsuspecting source, the blind king. Remember, we have discussed earlier on that all our scriptures have been written in certain codes.
Right.
That if you don't understand the codes, then you make a fool of yourself. Just as Sant Goswami Tulsidas wrote, Ati vichitra ragupati charita janahi paramasujan jaimati manda vimoha basa hridaya darahi kachuan. That if God bless you, you could unravel the mystery. So the mystery is in the first word of the Gita, Dharma. Not Dharma Kshetri, Dharma. And if you're looking for a mystery in a book with 700 verses, the least place you're going to look is in the first verse. And that is where the mystery was. This Dharma, the entire Gita, let's take out the first verse. And let us use the Gita that is commonly used worldwide, the 700 verses. 699 verses of the Gita describes what? Man's conflict with Dharma. His internal conflicts. How he deals with it. How he deals with anger, hate, jealousy, pride. All these things. Only to find out it all comes from this one word, Dharma. That is what you need to preserve.
Let us for a minute, so you're saying Dharma. How do you define Dharma?
Right. Dharma, for a Pandit, is Panditai. Dharma for a mechanic is his garage. Dharma for a welder is your welding shop. Whatever profession you do, that is your Dharma. Because Dharma means whatever you do, you have to perfect it. You must perfect it.
Okay, that's where occupations and so are concerned.
No, not, you see,
not occupation. Go ahead.
That's where we go to different wavelength already.
Okay.
Dharma means that which I do to sustain me honestly, and by my honest actions, I am upholding my Dharma.
Okay, what about my station in life? Don't I have dharmas related to whether I am a student, a householder? Yeah.
Semi-renunciate and
or renunciate, yeah.
Right. So when you are a student, your Dharma is what?
To study.
That's right. When you become a householder, what is your dharma?
I would say to ensure I look after my family, ensure continuity of the lineage.
Right. Lineage.
My apologies, sir.
Lineage. Everybody keeps saying lineage. As a matter of fact, one of your nephews who was in the Gita program with us, what's his name?
Umarat?
Not
Pandit Umarat?
Umarat. The one before Umarat, the year before.
I don't...
When the
Pandit
guy from-
Jaidat?
Pandit Jaidat.
Yeah.
I saw him on a program and he used the word lineage and I called him. I said, it's not lineage, it's lineage.
Okay.
I mean, it's spelled lineage, but the word is lineage. This is not to say that I know the word and you don't know the word. It's not that. It has to do with all of us has to strive to get it right.
Correct.
Nice. So when you become a householder, I'm now saying to you, you are educationally prepared because you spend the brahmachari stage in studies. But then you get distracted as a householder and you go off on a different wavelength. And you leave
When you
your
say
home.
distracted, what do you consider distraction?
All right. I prefer to go in the club and play card whole night.
Oh, I follow. Okay. No, I thought you meant not fulfilling. When you said this, some people in analyzing scriptures too want to suggest that you focus on nothing but God.
No.
Yeah, it's a misconception in my
That's a
view.
total misconception.
Yeah.
Now, it has reached the point now where, I mean, in the era we're living in, some bandits board the club one night, you end up getting a bullet, you die, only to realize now your family cannot even afford to bury you. Your children don't know where the next meal coming from. How could that be your dharma? So you have failed in that dharma. So when you progress to the third stage, if you live, semi-renunciate, what do you have to renounce? You already renounced it when you was in the second stage.
But let's focus on what a householder
Right, according
is
to all
supposed to
scriptures.
do. Yeah.
Right, the householder's responsibility is to, if you go to the marriage laws, there's a verse in the marriage ordinance, the marriage law that says that today when we get married, how did it describe the bride on the wedding day? I'll show you how complicated this dharma is.
As a Lakshmi.
That's right. So you are the Lakshmi of my home.
Yeah.
So you bring Lakshmi in your house. And this is why I say, regardless of what people do in their life, if they have no respect for anybody or anything, they must respect women. Because you bring a Lakshmi in a house that I bring in the traditional Hindu home. You have a grandmother living.
Yeah. An
You have
extended
a brother
family.
living.
Yeah.
Right? You may have an unmarried sister living and you bring a wife there. Right? So she's the Lakshmi in the home now. And then as destiny or time goes on, she gets pregnant and have a child. Who does she become? She cannot continue being the Lakshmi. So who she becomes now?
Please continue.
She becomes the Saraswati. Because
But
the
to teach the child.
responsibility changes. She now has to teach this child and bring up this child with what? The values, the customs, the traditions of two families, her family and the family she got married in. So this
A hybrid almost.
right? This child, really complicated. That is her responsibility to guide him through all of this, right? And by the time he's guided through it, the grandmother in the house would have died, the mother in the home would have died, the sister would have been married off and gone. So it's just you, the Saraswati in the house, and 3 teenage or 4 teenagers, middle-aged children. What happens to her then? When she fulfilled the responsibility of educating the children and marrying them and make sure they're stable in the job and whatever, what is her responsibility then? She
Durga.
becomes the Durga in the house now. The Durga in the house is the overseer. So whoever prays to Lakshmi, really praying to Durga. Whoever prays to Saraswati, really prays to Durga. But in a different form for a different purpose. It is the same thing with Dharma. As we go through different ages or the different stages in life, our Dharma changes. Because the Dharma of a student is not the Dharma of a renunciate. They have two different things.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this really is to preserve Dharma.
A question then. should, because we've seen this happen many times, where someone in their youth decides, you know what, I want to renounce. So in other words, they don't want to become a householder, they want to go to sannyas. What is your take on that?
You ought to be born for that. I'll give you a little episode that I know of, I won't call no name. That this child was born. Father is a pundit, very knowledgeable man, but very poor. And they couldn't afford to mind him. They couldn't. And they didn't want to throw him side the road or put him in an orphanage. So they took him to a mandir midnight and they left him there. Maybe the father knew the mandir he was going to leave his child. But that is up for debate. So when the Mahant woke up in the morning and he come outside, he see this baby. What are you going to do with it? So he took the baby in. And the mandir took the responsibility to mind the child. Right? A Krishna mandir. And this child grew up in the mandir, playing the role of Lord Krishna. Because they used to do Bhagavad different to how we do it. We do Bhagavad 3 times a day. They do Bhagavad 1 time a day, but for 20 consecutive days. So they do 20 sessions.
Okay.
So he used to dress up like the Lord Krishna until that is the name he adopted. And he was a renunciate from birth. So that is very rare.
That's an exceptional case, because as you were talking, my mind went back to Adi Shankaracharya, where in order to, because if a child decides to renounce, then his responsibilities for the continuation of his family's name and his family's lineage, he is basically... Lineage, okay. He's basically, habits are hard to break, eh?
Yep.
He's basically then not ensuring continuity. And I remember in the case of Adi Shankaracharya, to take sannyas, he had to get his mother's permission.
Yep.
Yeah, so these young people who are shaving their heads.
When Chinmayananda told Swami Shivananda he wanted to renounce the world, he said, very good. You could renounce the house you live in. Go and bring a letter for me, signed by your mother. And if she agrees, then I will do it. Now go back to chapter 6 in the Gita. When Arjun had the doubt and he says, well, suppose I do what you're telling me and I fail. And Lord Krishna says, failure is not an option. You may not achieve me in this lifetime, but I send you back in homes of the wise, the knowledgeable.
You continue.
But he's sending me the home where that could be achieved.
Yeah.
Now, if his purpose in life in the next birth is to live for 10 years to achieve God, he wouldn't get married in 10 years' time. Right? He might need 20 years. So the Supreme Lord guides it in such a way that these are, if you go back in the Gita, he says, such souls are very rare in this world.
But I think what I'm particularly focusing on is the average human being, average Hindu, average person growing up needs to go through these stages in life, needs to get all these experiences. Before, like you said, if you never had anything, what are you telling me about renouncing? Yeah? Renunciation means you must have something to renounce. You know, ultimately.
But I will never understand. I will never understand, never, the conflict a driver will have with a motor car. I will never understand that because I've never driven in my life. So you could talk to me from now until the world come to an end. I still can't find the radiator in the car.
You know, and this may be a controversial comment, but this is something that has been said, even in terms of counseling. How could someone who has never been through the process of marriage, who has never really experienced the challenges and also living in a home, be capable really of giving wholesome advice on marriage?
My next comment is going to be 699 verses talks about how to resolve man's conflicts. Right. The Gita teaches the greatest type of conflict resolution. You're jumping the gun. That's what the Gita is about. Conflict resolution. I am not going to fight Bhishma because I have a conflict. And my conflict is, He's my Aja. I'm not going to kill my Aja. And Lord Krishna says, listen, I have good news and bad news for you. Son, don't kill your Aja. That is the good news. The bad news, your Aja will kill you.
Yeah.
So you resolve it. So it's conflict resolution. I'll give you a nice example. I walk in on High Street. Well, you don't know South.
Not so well. I know High Street.
Which is the main street in Arangwes? The shopping street, the main shopping street.
Arangwes Main Road.
So I am walking on Arangwes Main Road.
I know High Street, sir.
Okay. So I'm walking on High Street. And I see Rohit sitting on the side of the road with an umbrella over his head. So I say, boy, what's wrong with you? He says, Pandit, listen, think kind of hard. So I'm starting a little small business. I said, what business you starting? He said, look, a fellow who have a store, give me a box of pen to sell. And he says, if I sell it in a week, he will give me 2 boxes. And if I sell that, he'll give me 4. And I go build myself and I go open up a little business. I say, okay. Now I want to patronize it because I know it. So I say, listen, how much for the pen? I want a dozen. This I'll give you for 60. I don't know. I buy it for 60 because I buy it because I know it. I didn't know the pen cost 10. So he already made the profit he need. He could throw away the rest of pens and still have a profit. So when I go home and I start to write, I say, this pen really nice. I need more of this. So I go back High Street and see Rohit again. I say, boy, listen, how much pen you really had in the box? Not testing the man's faith. He says, Pandit, to be honest with you, it had 36 pen in the box. But I keep 4 for myself. I say, okay. So you had 32 pen to sell? I say, yes. I said, I buy 12, so you still have 20 pen to sell. Give me the 20. He said, Pandit, I can't sell you the 20. I say, why? He says, well, I already sell it to Maniedeo. Say, what? Maniedeo living quite Arangwes. How he come High Street to buy pen here? He said, boy, I like how the man talks, so I give it at a discount price. I said, so how much you sell it to Maniedeo for? He said, sell it for 16. I pay 60 for 12. Maniedeo pay 16 for 20. And that is automatic conflict. Between
it can raise conflict, yeah.
No, I'm saying it's automatic conflict. Now, what do? That is what the Gita teaches. I have 2 options. One option, I could get into conflict with you and both of us end up destroying ourselves. But then the Gita is smarter than that. The Gita goes back to chapter 2, verse 58. And what does verse 58 say? In chapter 2. If I am in a conflict, I need to preserve my dharma. So what do? Like the tortoise, I go into my shell and I remain there, preserving my dharma, rather than exposing myself to destroying the dharma that I have lived my whole life trying to preserve. We agree on that? Nice. So, to preserve dharma, to protect dharma, and to strengthen dharma are 3 different things. And the answer to those 3 things, how do I strengthen my dharma? What do I need to do? The Gita says the same thing. Sant Goswami Tulsidas says the same thing. And the person you referred to just now, Shankaracharya, he said the same thing, which is Satasangatave nisasangatvam nisasangatave niramohatvam niramohatave nishachalatatvam nishchalatatave jivanamuktam bhaj govindam govindam bhaj mudamati. The first way to strengthen dharma is satsang. Sant Goswami Tulsidas, you know the line by heart. Binu satsanga vivekana.
Nahui.
Right. So when you go to satsang,
in Prathama Bhakti Satsang Karsanga,
it is the first form of devotion. Now, what is the purpose of satsang? To become a devotee of God? No. No, satsang has nothing to do with being a devotee of God. When you go to
Self-development,
satsang,
yeah.
you must have a pre-notion in you. Your pre-notion is what the Gita says, dharma. So satsang is to preserve dharma. That is the first way to do it. And you might, I wouldn't say get enough of satsang, because you cannot get enough. But you will be well prepared in the satsang to find the other two ways. Because you have to find all three to preserve it. So the first one, step one, is satsang, which the Gita talks about. And the second and the third step also comes from Shankaracharya. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dheyam Shripati Rupam Ajasram Neyam Sajajana Sangage Chitatam Deyam Dina Janaya Hivitatam Bhaj Govindam Govindam Bhaj Mudamati. Geyam Gita. So having strengthened your dharma in satsang, you go to the next level, which is Geyam Gita. Glorify the Bhagavad Gita. Study the Gita. And the last stage, Nama Sahasram, the Sahasranam of Lord Vishnu. So those are the three steps. Satsang, Gita, Vishnu Sahasranam. That strengthens the dharma that you need to carry you through life. And by the time you realize that you have perfected satsang, you have perfected Gita, and you have perfected Vishnu Sahasranam, then the shock comes for the individual. Verse 66 or 67 of chapter 18 of the Gita. Sarva dharma parityajam mamekam sharanam braja. If your intention is to come to me, Arjun, whatever you have accomplished in this world, surrender it now. Because you have built up everything to reach me, but you cannot bring those things that you have accomplished. You renounce it to me now. And that is the assurance he has given you.
Take refuge in him.
Take refuge in me. Take your dharma. Protect your dharma. Support your dharma. Strengthen yourself with dharma. And in the end, the dharma cannot help you. The dharma cannot help you even though you spend your whole life preserving it. Why? Because sarva dharma parityajam. Surrender it now. Now that you have accomplished it, you could only give up what you have. If you have nothing, what are you going to give up? So that is what the Gita is. Dharma, study it, build it, strengthen it, live by it, and in the end, when you are prepared to see God, surrender
it all to him
and move on. That is what the Gita is.
I remember there is this comment made concerning Mahatma Gandhi, the founder of the Indian country, India, when he said that whenever he faces difficulties, uncertainties, and he is unhappy, not sure where to find answers, he would turn to Bhagavad Gita. And in here, he would find peace, tranquility, and happiness. And answers.
The piece you miss.
Go ahead.
He just opened the book by guess.
Yes. And you get an answer from that page.
That is the piece you miss.
Yeah.
It's not a specific page he turned.
Yeah.
He just opened the book.
Yeah.
And that gives him solace. What solace he wanted? Think back at Mahatma Gandhi. He was on a one-man course, you know. So whenever his vision was weakened, he turned to the Gita. Dharma. Strengthen me dharma. Strengthen me dharma. Strengthen me dharma. And when it was fully strengthened, what he say in the end? When he get the bullet?
That's something I find interesting, yeah?
What?
Ram.
Well, you know what the Anand Ramayana says?
What's that?
That there is no mantra in Sanatana Dharma to equal Ram.
Ram.
That even when you die, we chant it on carrying you on the cremation ground. No mantra could equal that. It is the greatest of mantra. But the whole essence of the Gita really is, whatever you have as a dharma, that is what you have to preserve. Now, if you cannot preserve your dharma, you want to preserve mine.
Somebody else one, yeah.
It's about 6 or 7 places in the Gita where one word appears. Sorry, a word called swadharma.
One's dharma, yeah.
Swadharma means your dharma. Protect that.
Yeah.
Don't try to protect my dharma. You cannot protect my dharma. I have to protect my dharma. And people.
And one's own dharma is preferable, even though performed imperfectly.
Even though you may think it's imperfect.
Than someone else's dharma.
Well done.
Well
That's
done.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So protect what you have. Everybody chooses to protect the dharma differently. I choose fearlessly. I protect my dharma at all costs. I am not telling you do the same thing.
But as we come to the end of this half of our program, as we conclude Srimad Bhagavad Gita, how can we encourage our viewers to do further study? What would you say?
Consult somebody who you think know the Gita. My first advice to you, get a copy and run through it. Don't read it, just run through it. And anything you see in the Gita that you don't like or you don't agree with or you don't believe in, that is when you start to consult somebody.
Yeah.
Moha janita sansaya baharana. Because you are going to go to somebody with a doubt in your mind. Make sure you go to the person who could get rid of that doubt.
And if you go to someone and you don't like the answer you get, there are others.
Else.
Try someone else.
Try somebody else.
Yeah, there is a wealth of information and many learned persons throughout the world who have spent lifetime studying Bhagavad Gita. And even so, you would find different perspectives. And which is why sometimes when people get into Hinduism is not, and Sanatana Dharma is not a philosophy where I am right and you are wrong. My God better than your God.
They don't have that in Sanatana
That is
Dharma.
childishness, and that is about building human society, building a following. So my God better than yours, so I could kill you. Because, you know, that's not a Hindu perspective. And the ethos of Hinduism is where we allow for individual growth, individual analysis. And remember, at the end of the day, if you mention someone disagreeing with Bhagavad Gita, whether we agree or disagree, Bhagavad Gita will stand.
Yeah.
It's for us, yeah.
I've said that in the Gita program. If you believe Sanatana Dharma depends on Maniedeo and Vikram to survive, whatever you're smoking, you need to stop smoking it. Because this was here 1,000,000 years before Maniedeo, and a little more than 1,000,000 years before me. And I have a funny feeling it will be here 1,000,000 years after without me. Sanatana Dharma does not depend on us. Let me explain something to you. When we talk about preserving Dharma, are you and I preserving Dharma? No, we are not. We are enjoying the fruits of what our forefathers have done. That is what we are doing. We're not preserving Dharma. What we do in this lifetime, when we depart from here, what we have left behind. There's a beautiful quote. I was supposed to bring the quote and I forget it all, but I know it. You don't have to live 100 years for people to remember you. You need to do one good in life that people will talk about it for 100 years. That is the one. That is preserving Dharma. That is preserving Dharma. Not how long you live, what you have done. People still talking about Mahatma Gandhi. 80% of the people living in India don't even know it had a man in India named Mahatma Gandhi. They only see he pity on a dollar bill. They don't even know what he stand for.
A rupee or 100 rupee.
A dollar bill, still a dollar bill. It's still printed paper.
Yeah.
That is all money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Money is printed paper. But if it becomes your priority in life, having a discussion with you doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense. And this is why the Gita is self-preservation. It preserves itself.
And so to each of you, as we conclude the discussion on Gita, we will take our break and then come back for Panditji to recite the greatness of the Gita, and then we'll conclude this series. But before we conclude, I would just want to say to you, this effort has been done with love, with an approach such that we hope we would have injected in each of our viewers a desire or assisted in some way in helping you to get a greater grasp of Bhagavad Gita and a desire to study. We invite you to continue your study. At this time, we'll take a break and then return for the Mahatam. Jai Shri Krishna. you are invited to view a new series on Bhagavad Gita. This series on Bhagavad Gita is a production of the International Gita Forum Caribbean and IETV. Join us weekly as we explore the verses of Bhagavad Gita to engender greater understanding of the philosophy and the greatness of Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Welcome back to this final session in our 25th program on Bhagavad Gita. We've completed Bhagavad Gita, we've held our discussions in the last half an hour, and now at this point I hand over to Pandit Vickramaditya Maharaj, who has gone through the entire Bhagavad Gita, this entire series with us for the Mahatam. Panditji.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Radharamanaaya Namaha. Daro Uvach Bhagavan Parameshana Bhaktir Vyavicharini Prarabdam Bhujayamanasya Prattama Bhavati He Prabhu. The Mahatam of the Gita is what is simply called the greatness of the Gita. And it's a discussion that took place between Earth and Lord Vishnu. And Earth asked the question, how is it possible for one who is bounded by karma, how can that person become a devotee of God? And Lord Vishnu responds immediately, Pradabdam bhujayamano hi gita vyasa ratasara samukta sasuki loke karamana nupalipyati. Even if a person is dominated by karma, he can become a mukt, a liberated one, if he is devoted to the practice of the Gita. What the Gita teaches, practice it, little by little. No new karma will affect that person. Mahapapa dipapani Gita dhyanam kadoti chit kvartita parasana koravanti nalini dalanam bhuvat. No sin, however great that sin may be, can affect a person who meditates upon the Gita. Just as water cannot affect the lotus leaf, so evil cannot affect a person who meditates on the Gita. Gitaya pustakam yatra yatra patha pravartati tatta saravani tirtani prayagadini tatrave sarvadevashta rishayo yogena pananagachaye gopala gopika vapi nadara dhruva parshade. Wherever the Bhagavad Gita is kept, wherever the Bhagavad Gita is studied, wherever people sit and read the Gita, wherever people sit and chant the Gita, know it for certain that all the devatas, the rishis, the gopis, Narad Muni, Uddhav, they are all present there to witness the chanting of the Gita. One of the boons that Sri Ram had given to Hanuman, what the boon Hanuman asked for? When Ram was Dankarin boon, left, right and center, what Hanuman asked for?
I think it was irremovable devotion.
He already had that. You know there's a beautiful verse,
I don't
strain a little bit. You know there's a beautiful verse in the Hanuman Chalisa, Ashta Siddhina Vanidike Data Asuvaradina Janaki Mata. So Janaki Mata
gave him those.
But how Hanuman reached Lanka? How did he reach Lanka to find Sita?
He fly?
So she blessed him to fly. That is one of the siddhis. One of the siddhis is you could make yourself big as you want.
Small, yeah.
He already had that. And you could make yourself small as you want. He already had that. So what did the Sita really give him? Hanuman had all that already, but he couldn't bless nobody else with it. What she gave him was the ability to bless people with the qualities that he had. So the same way, this is why I say the Gita is the, people talk about worshipping. I don't believe in worshipping, what you call it, iPad, laptop. I will not put a laptop on a singhasan to read Ayyak. I think that is total disrespect to Sanatana Dharma. That is, I don't care who do it, it's a total disrespect. And I'll tell you why. The Gita itself says, Sahayo jayate shigram yatra gita pravartati yatra gita vicharashta patanam apatanam chutam tatraham nishtitam pritavin nivasame sadaivahi. Wherever the Gita is read, help comes quickly Read the last verse in the Gita. Yatra
Yogeshwara
Yogeshwara
Krishna.
Krishna. That is my promise. Lord Krishna is always there. He wouldn't be on an iPad, because I thought this is not a program for me to discuss what you could find on the iPad, but it certainly ain't going to be the Gita alone. You could find a lot of unwarranted things there too. So wherever people inquire into the Gita, wherever people chant, wherever the Gita is taught, wherever people sit and listen to the Gita, Lord Vishnu says, I reside there.
There.
Gita Shrai Hamatishtami Gita Me Chotamam Graham Gita Jnanopashritya Trinilokin Palamyaham. I reside in the refuge of the Gita. The Gita is the foremost of my residence, Arjun. I protect the three worlds based on the wisdom of the Gita. Gita Me Parama Vidya Brahmarupana Sanshaya Ardhamata Kshara Nitya Swanirava Chapadatmika Chidanandena Krishnena Prokasa Makuta Arjunam Vedatrayi Parananda Tatvarta Jnana Sanyuta. The Gita has been described as knowledge supreme. It is undoubtedly the embodiment of the Supreme Brahman. The knowledge of the Gita is absolute. Nobody has ever, since this Gita came into existence, nobody has ever changed a single letter in it. It is imperishable, so it doesn't need you and I. It's eternal, it doesn't need you and I. The essence, it comprises the knowledge of the three Vedas. Now, this is one of the doubts I had. Charahu Veda Purana Yashtadasa. Ramayana says there are 4 Vedas. The Gita says there are only 3 Vedas. So that is my conflict. No. It has 4 Vedas. But what people don't understand, what is called the Atharvan Veda. The Atharvan Veda is made up with identical verses of the Rig, Sam and Yajur. They took verses from those to compile a 4th one. For somebody who wants to study the Vedas quickly, study the Atharvan Veda. So, the knowledge of the Vedas, it is the true nature of the self. Who am I? And this has been declared by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Yo ashta dasajapo nityam nado nishtalamanasa jnana siddhim salabate tato yati paramapadam. He who chants the 18 chapters of the Gita every day. Now that is not an easy mission to do. Even for somebody like me who could do it. It's not easy to do. It takes you 4 or 5 hours to do it.
Yeah.
Now, 30 years ago when I was playing cricket, I wouldn't read one verse of the Gita every day. I more studied who win and who lose and who get bowled and every 4 hours on the match. But when you start to read it, the love that the Gita itself represents encourages you to read one more, read one more, read one more, and then eventually you read the 18 chapters. What you get for reading the 18 chapters, you get firmness of mind, you gain perfection of knowledge, and then you reach the supreme state. Pati samgrisam purane taturada patamachari tadagodana jamapunyam labate natra sanshaya. And the Gita itself says it, if you cannot read 18 chapters a day, then read 9 chapters a day. It cut it by half. And when you read 9 chapters a day, you get the benefit, as we say in local language, you dankare a cow. Devotees, and I'm serious, very serious about telling you this, don't let no pundit fool you into dankaring cow. Cow can't do nothing for you. It will end up by the butcher, and I know of no pundit. I know one living in a gated community who making people dankare cow. Where he mining that? He gives somebody else to mine it. And there's a term they used to use long time. We go mine it in half. Which half is yours? You understand? When that animal ends up by the butcher, who pays for that sin? So save the animal. How do you save the animal and save yourself? Read 9 chapters of the Gita a day. I make no apology for that. And of this, Natra Sanshaya, there is no doubt about this. Tribhagam patanamanastu Ganga snana palam labi Kadancham japanamanastu somayaga palam labi. If you cannot read 9 chapters a day, then read 6 chapters a day. It gives you the benefit of taking a bath in the Ganga. You don't have to go to India to take a bath in the Ganga. Reading 6 chapters a day gives you that benefit. A group of people went to India, and one fellow said, boy, that river too nasty, he can't bathe in it. And the next guy with him dip a cup in the water and drink it. And nothing then happened to him. So you go with impure thought, you will see impurity. No. Those who read 3 chapters a day gets the benefit of performing what is called the Soma Yagya. If I know what the Soma Yagya is, the answer to that is no. I have seen it mentioned in many scriptures, I don't know what it is. Ekadhyayam tuyo nityam patate bhakti sanyuta radlalokam gano bhutva. If you read 1 chapter a day, you journey to the abode of Rudralok, Lord Shiva, and you will become an attendant of Lord Shiva. Who is the greatest attendant of Lord Shiva?
Nandishwar? Ganesh?
That's right. That's the greatest attendant of Lord Shiva. Ajayam shlokapadam va nityamaya patati janaha sayati naratamayavan manvantaravasudari. If you read quarter of a chapter for the entire duration of Manu, you will be born on earth as a human, bettering every existence that you have until you gain perfection. Gitaya slokadaskam saptapancha tushtayam dautrinekam tadaravaha slokanam yapati naraha chandralokam avapnoti varshanama drumam Gita pata samayokto mitomanu katam braji. He who recites 10, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, half of a verse. Most people who cannot read Sanskrit, most people know 2 verses in the Gita. What is the 2 verses everybody know?
Probably yada yada hi dharmasya.
Probably that.
Glanira bhavati bharata.
Everybody know them 2 verses. So you're already starting with a benefit. You know 2, by everybody know that. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanira bhavati bharat abhyaktanam dharmasya teratmanam srijamyaham. And you go to the second one, Paritrana, then you go to a 4th one. And then you go reach what the Gita says, half of a verse, half of a chapter. Now, Gita yabhyasam punamakritva labate mukti matatamam Gita chadana samiyokto mriyamano gatim labi. By practicing the teachings of the Gita, one gets liberation. It says, if a person is on its deathbed, and he's able to chant the Gita, he gets liberation. If he's not able to chant the Gita, this is why we go sometimes and chant Gita for people who we assume think dying. We chant Gita for them. And sometimes what we do, sometimes the Pandits walk with 2 Gita. The person who dying, they put it between the thumb and the palm of his hand, and he holding the Gita while the Pandit chanting him. There's a reason that if the person dies holding that Gita in his hand, he automatically gets liberation. So much power exists in this text. The Gita says, if a person has committed great sins in this world, if he just loves to listen to the Gita, that could liberate him. Listening. Gita jayate nitya kritava karamana bhurishaha jivana mukta sabhiggeyo dehanate paramamapadam. Jivan mukta means a person who has liberated himself from the cycle of birth and death whilst he is still alive. A person could become a Jivan Mukta if he meditates on the meaning of the Gita. What these words really mean. Meditate upon it. Try to practice it even in the performance of his daily karma, so it doesn't affect your daily life. Whatever your daily life is, you do it. And one day, in your daily life, you'll say, you know what, I'm picking up rubbish on the side of the road, but you know what? God blessed me with this thing, you know. If I do pick up this rubbish, you know how this neighborhood going to smell tomorrow? So I do this for the love of God. Then you would realize whatever you do is something that God has willed it to happen. When this body falls, you will attain the supreme state. Gita Mashita Bahavo Bhuvajo Janakadaya Nidadu Kalamakaloki Gita Yata Paramapadam. Many great kings in history have freed themselves from evil and have attained the highest state through the Gita. Raja Janak is one of them. Gitaya Patanama Kritva Mahatmayam Naivayapati Britapata Bhavitasya Shama Eva Yudahritaha. The reading of the Gita is in vain. The reading of the Gita is wasted if the Mahatma of the Gita is not read when you complete the Gita. Etan Mahatma Sanayuktam Gita Vyasam Kadutiya Satat Palamavapnoti Duralavam Gatimapnuyat. He who studies the Gita, which is what we have done for the last 25 programs. We were studying the Gita on television. Together with the discourse on the Mahatma, gets the benefit which are all described in the Gita, and such a goal is very rare. Sujyovaj Mahatmeda Gitaya Maya Proktam Sanatanam Gitante Chapate Dhyastu Yaduktam Takpalam Labhi. He who reads the greatness of the Gita, which has been declared by me after reading the Gita, will obtain the rewards which are described herein. Iti Shri Varapurani, Shri Gita Mahatam, Sampuranam, Bolo Shri Govinda Bhagavani Ki Jai. Devotees, the real Gita is in the Vara Puran. It is 88 verses. This is a précis version that most authors, most writers use this. Right now we are in the process of putting the 88 verses together and printing it. For people who want it, they will have it available. We are also working on another project which is called the Ganesh Gita. Because a lot of people never even hear about the Ganesh Gita. People don't know nothing about it. So we have started a project of putting it together. What we have done so far, we have put it together. We are now in the process of trying to raise, well, when we are ready, this is what it's going to look like. And we'll have it available for people who want it. Because in Sanatan Dharma, you know, we talk about the Panchadeva. In this age, we talk about the Panchadeva. Lord Vishnu, then you have the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shiv, you have the Shiv Gita. You have Durga, Devi Gita. You have Ganesh, Ganesh Gita. Surya, Surya Gita. What is interesting, they're all different in size. The Ganesh Gita is only 11 chapters. But what the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita says in 18 chapters, the Ganesh Gita says it in 11 chapters. So they are all intertwined together. And my appeal to you, study it. You can't study it for me. Study to better yourself. Because that is the only person on the face of this earth you could change. You could only change yourself. You can't change anybody else. And if you change yourself, you are doing yourself a good. Nobody else. So better your standard, better your style, better your life. Study the word of the Supreme Lord. Panditji?
As we conclude, we have done the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the Gita Mahatma. Panditji, with your agreement, we'll just do the Arati.
Sure.
Jai Bhagavad Gita, Jai Bhagavad Gita. Harihi Kamal Viharini Sundar Supunite. Karma Sumarma Prakashini Kama Sakti Hara. Tattva Jnana Vikashini Vidya Brahma Para. Nischala Bhakti Vidayini Niramal Malhari. Sharana Rahasya Pradayini Sabhavidhi Sukhakari. Raga Dvesha Vidarini Karini Modasara. Bhavabhayaharini Tarini Paramananda Prara. Asura Bhava Vinashini Nashini Tamarajani. दैवी सद्गुणदायिनी हरिरसिका सजनी समता त्याग सिखावनी हरिमुख की बानी सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी श्रुतियों की रानी दया सुधा वरसावनी मातु कृपा की जय हरिपद प्रेम दान कर अपनो कर ली जय जय भगवद गीते जय भगवद गीते. Pandit ji, any final words as we complete?
You take the final.
Okay. This has been an effort of the International Gita Forum to Caribbean to create greater awareness of Bhagavad Gita. As many may be aware, since 2012 we have been doing an International Gita Forum Caribbean in Trinidad and Tobago, which takes place around Gita Jayanti time. This year again, as in previous years and hopefully in the future, we shall continue developing this idea of the study of Bhagavad Gita. I want to, although Pandit Vikramji says never say thanks, he doesn't want thanks, but he's a man who has spent a lifetime in study. He is very knowledgeable with Bhagavad Gita. As we indicated again, nothing that is said in this program do we want you to treat it as sacrosanct. So if it deviates with something that you believe or you have experience with somewhere else, that's up to you. But to the best of our ability, we have sought to bring to you thoughts, ideas, translations, perspectives on the Bhagavad Gita. I think it is only fitting. We are coming to the end of this series, and although Pandit Vikram has spoken throughout, I would like him to conclude with words as he sees fit. Panditji.
If you disagree with anything that I have said in the Gita, I won. If you agree with me, I still win. Because I've gotten you to agree or disagree. I also want to awaken in you inquisitiveness. Be inquisitive. Search. My first attempt at reading the Gita, I made a comment to my dad, who is celebrating his 100th birthday this year. And we are doing the Ganesh Gita in memory to commemorate his 100th birthday. And I asked one question. And I can tell you the exact words I used, because none of it was really bad. Who the hell really write this? What zombie they put to write this thing? And my father said something to me then. I was only 16 years then. Unravel it. Unravel it. First, I didn't know what the word unravel means. I had to go look for a dictionary to find it. And the meaning I found in the dictionary was more confusing than unravel it. So I started to unravel it. And I had a lot of help along the road. I had help from the Dharmachar in those days, Pandit Janki Prasad Sharma. I had help from my guru in Devi, Pandit Gangadhar. I had help with Pandits from India. I had help with Swamis from India. And I'm still trying to unravel it. I'm still trying. And coming to the end of my life, I don't think I'll unravel it yet. But there's one thing I know, the whole Gita is about the first word. Had I known that when I was 16 years old, I would have never read the Gita. Because know what the answer is, the first word. So it took a lifetime of study to realize that the Gita is about Dharma. Nothing else about Dharma and nothing else. Don't quote me on that and say I say. You have to experience that to know it. And when you experience it in your life, you would realize the kind of changes you could make through the grace and the blessings, one of Lord Ganesh was. Nothing happens without his input. When he touches it, it goes. Even Vyas, who wrote all the scriptures, who unraveled the 4 Vedas, if you read in the Mahabharata, the discussion that took between Lord Ganesh and Vyas about the writing of the Mahabharata, it took the coming together of 2 geniuses, a material genius and a spiritual genius together to put this Mahabharata together. And they have done it successfully. We need to study it. And the good news is when you study the Mahabharata, you'll realize the Mahabharata doesn't have one Gita in it. It has many Gitas. It has Hansa Gita, Vyada Gita, Vidur Gita, so much different Gitas, but the way it's written, you will pass it straight and won't recognize it. So devotees, my thing, study, better yourself. The only way we could change is if we study and uplift ourselves. According to chapter 6, we must become our own friend. Uplift ourselves by ourselves, or we could degrade ourselves by becoming enemies of the self. The choices are yours, devotees. That is my final word.
As we conclude, we offer a prayer to Bhagwan Sri Krishna. Om Vasudevam Sutam Devam Kansachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. May the blessings of Sri Krishna be with all of us. May we continue the study of Bhagavad Gita. May we find happiness, peace and success. Jai Shri Krishna.